All right. Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Uh, you are tuned in to Unpack This with the Authentic Coach. I'm Gloria Bailey-Ray, and today um, it's a bit emotional day for me. I have been doing Unpack This podcast, this women's series, and we are coming to the close of series number 2. And I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart how grateful I am for all of you that have tuned in. Today, we're going to be talking about the hardest unlearning, realizing that survival is no longer your identity. That's right. Again, welcome to Unpack This. I'm Gloria Bailey-Ray, known as the Authentic Coach. And as we close out season 2, the Unlearning, I just want to recap. This season has been about confronting the emotional patterns, belief systems, survival behaviors, and identities that so many women have inherited and even adapted to, or in many cases, created just to survive life, leadership, love, disappointment, trauma, and expectations. We, whew, we unpacked why women stay too long, why women overgive, why women shrink, why women romanticize struggle, why women confuse survival with strength, and why women keep choosing emotional, um, familiar pain. I also unpack why so many high functioning women are just silently exhausted. But this finale is deeper because the hardest unlearning is realizing survival is no longer your identity. I need you to sit with this question for a moment. Who are you when you are no longer fighting to survive? Just let that sit with you. I'm not talking about surviving financially or emotionally, not even surviving rejection, abandonment, or disappointment, but survive the version of yourself you had to become just to make it through life. Mm, that's a moment to make you go, because for many women, survival became identity. And let me just say this, when survival becomes identity, rest feels unsafe. Softness feels weak. Support feels unfamiliar. And I can relate to this. Peace feels suspicious. Hmm. And guess what? You don't even realize how much of your life has been built around coping instead of living. Like I said, I need you to sit with this question for a moment. Who are you when you are no longer fighting to survive? That's a question, because so many of you, and I'm going to say us, we've been there. We've done that. We've had to survive because we had to become this whole new identity. And that part right there, that's the piece that this women's series has been around. Not only you having an awakening, but about you now unlearning all these things that you have been taught, that has, been shown to you, right? So let me take you back. Let's talk about childhood and the making of a strong woman, if I can, right? And I say that because you know what's interesting is this: most women who are called strong, they didn't choose strength. Strength was assigned to them. Yeah. Some of us became strong because we had no choice. We became the responsible one, the fixer, the helper, the achiever, the caretaker, the dependable one. And and guess what? The emotionally mature one. And you know what? People applauded us for that. But nobody, hear me when I say this, nobody stopped to ask, what did it cost her to become strong? I think about growing up and how often many of us heard things like this: you'll be okay, you're strong, you'll handle it, don't cry, push through, keep going. And while resilience is powerful, I must say there's a difference between resilience and emotional deprivation, because many women learned early on vulnerability was not safe. So we learned to perform capably. And over time, eventually, people stop seeing your humanity because they only see your functionality. Does that make sense? Think about that for a moment. That's real. I want to shift and just talk a little bit about the science of survival mode. What do I mean by that? Let me talk about what survival mode actually does. So, see, research on chronic stress and trauma responses shows that prolonged emotional stress, it keeps the nervous system in a constant state of alertness. And what that means basically is your body never fully rests. And survival mode doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes survival mode looks like overworking, overachieving, people pleasing, overthinking, emotional suppression. How about hyper independence, or that constantly staying busy, difficulty resting, always anticipating problems. And you know what? And society, believe it or not, rewards a lot of these behaviors, especially in women. Women are so often praised for their self-sacrifice. They're praised for their endurance. They're praised for carrying everyone else emotionally. Mm. But let me tell you, emotionally carrying everybody while you abandon yourself, that's not wellness. No, it's called exhaustion. It's exhaustion with good PR. And the body eventually responds. How do I know that? Studies continue to show that connections between chronic stress and hypertension, inflammation, anxiety, depression, autoimmune disorders, sleep disruption, burnout, emotional fatigue. I'm raising my hand because I've been there. Listen, your body keeps score. When your soul never feels safe enough to exhale, mm, mm, mm. This is real. Ladies, women, pay attention. Your body is that internal compass that's telling you what's going on. And we tend to push it to the side. We ignore it for the sake of what? Because at the end of the day, I tell you, how many people are going to be counting all of these things that you, and I have to say you dealt with, Let me tell you a personal story about the cost of survival. I'll be honest with you. See, there were seasons in my life where I didn't even realize I was surviving, y'all. I thought I was succeeding. That's why I say this is emotional for me. See, I thought I'm handling it. I'm getting it done. I'm productive. Oh, I prided myself on being dependable. I'm strong. In the meantime, my body was exhausted. My mind was exhausted. And my spirit was exhausted. And when you spend years being a strong one, I'm going to tell you this for a fact. People stop checking on you. They assume she got it. She'll figure it out. She's always landed on her feet. But I want to tell you something. Strength without support becomes isolation. Ladies, hey, you can, if you're listening live, you can put a comment in the comment section, because I know that it's tight what I'm talking about, but it's right. Yeah. So it's just, knowing that you have strength, but there's no support, there's isolation. And I really do believe this. Many women that are listening today understand exactly what I mean. Some of you have built your entire identities around being needed. And when you are no longer needed, you don't know who you are. Oh yeah, hear me when I say this. And I'm going to shift to, the part of identity crisis, because that's the real conversation, right? Talking about identity crisis, because when survival identities are tricky, get this, you begin believing, number one, that struggle equals purpose. You begin believing that suffering equals love. And, oh my goodness, exhaustion equals success. Fixing equals value. Or how about sacrificing equals loyalty? But when healing comes along and suddenly you don't recognize yourself anymore, you know what? That's because who you are, when you're no longer doing all these things, okay, this is going to be a stretch moment, because who are you when you are no longer chasing validation, when you're no longer proving your worth or Oh my goodness. When you're no longer fixing broken people or you're shrinking to fit. How about when you're no longer over explaining yourself or emotionally carrying relationships? And this was a big one for me, surviving chaos. Who are you without survival mode? Now, that question terrifies many women. It does, because survival gave structure, even when it hurt, right? And when we think about it, let me touch on the truth that many women don't want to admit. Some women don't know how to function in peace. Come on now, come on. Not because they're broken, but because chaos became so emotionally familiar that calmness, it felt boring. That healthy felt unfamiliar, and consistency felt suspicious. And I'm going to tell you this, if you grew up earning love through performance, you may unconsciously choose relationships where you still have to prove yourself. Come on now. I say that because, see, survival patterns repeat. They repeat until they are interrupted consciously, okay? This is real. So when we think about unlearning, let's unlearn some things together. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your worth through exhaustion. You do not have to overgive to deserve love. Ladies, hear me when I say this. And this, listen, you do not have to stay loyal to spaces that are destroying you. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. When I talk about when they get up from the table, you've been at tables too long. You know, you've been loyal, sitting at that table, and it's been destroying you all along. I want to tell you, you don't have to shrink to be accepted. And you do not have to perform strength every second of your life. And you wonder why you stress? Ladies, I want to tell you, you don't have to carry everybody emotionally. And this is a big one. We need to learn. You do not have to save people from themselves. Let that sit with you. I know it's right. Listen, you don't have to save people from themselves. You do not have to become smaller to make insecure people comfortable. And why I do this series is one of the main reasons. I got tired of shrinking myself to make other people feel comfortable because they were insecure being around someone who had a bright light that would shine. Ladies, I'm just telling you, we all are so, oh my gosh, we are so much more than what we think we are. And we have allowed all of these narratives to play into our heads. I'm just telling you. And I just want to say this clearly. Being needed is not the same as being valued. That right there, that one right there, that's a mic drop moment. You know, because you're changing that mindset. That changes lives, right? It does. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about, you know, what happens when you're healing, because there's the grief that comes along with healing. See, healing is not about just becoming. Healing is grieving, because when you heal, you grieve. What do I mean by that? You grieve old identities. You grieve old patterns. You grieve old relationships. You grieve old coping mechanisms. And how about this? You even grieve old versions of yourself. You grieve the woman who thought survival was the same thing as living. And I've said this many times, healing can feel lonely because people often benefited from your dysfunction. Oh, baby, but when you start to heal, I'm gonna tell you, it's a new day, because people liked you better when you were exhausted. Why? You were more accessible. You were more self-sacrificing. You were more agreeable. You were more manageable. But guess what? Healing, I love that word, healing. It changes your availability. Look, that right there, drop that in the comment. Did you hear what I said? Healing changes your availability. That's real. Okay? And let's talk about what healing actually looks like, right? I want to be the first to tell you, healing is not always glamorous. Sometimes healing looks like this. You ready? Healing looks like disappointing people. Healing looks like that 2-letter word, but it carries a punch. Saying no. Healing looks like resting without guilt. You don't know anybody an explanation why you're resting. Healing looks like sitting in silence. That's right. Just doing me, myself, and I. Healing looks like allowing help. Did you hear it? Allowing help, right? Healing looks like leaving unhealthy environments. Right there, some of us are still stuck. That ride or die mentality. That those relationships that aren't serving you. All right? But healing also looks like you choosing peace over chaos. This is one I really had to learn for me as I was going through healing, is not responding immediately. That was a big one for me. And healing also looks like setting boundaries, which I realized that even though I said I had some, I really didn't, because I ignored them. Not now. Healing looks like you being able to grieve honestly, y'all. And how about this? Healing looks like slowing down, being soft again. Please, I ask of you to think about those things. Healing is learning that your nervous system deserves safety too. You with me? And I think when I think about what brought me to this point, the biggest shift was, and maybe for some of you, is realize that the version of me, and I'm going to say of you that survive, cannot always go where the healed version of you is trying to go, if that makes sense. Because the old you can't go where the new you is going, right? That's kind of also like a lot of the people that have been with you, they don't get to go with you. That's real. Because, see, survival taught you armor. That's right. You had to put on that armor. But healing asks for authenticity. And all of you, if you've been following me, you know that is my favorite word, authenticity. Healing asks for authenticity. That's right. Survival taught you hypervigilance, but healing asks for trust. Survival taught you independence at all costs, but healing asks you to receive. And, and I'm going to say this, and some women would rather stay exhausted than face the vulnerability of becoming. Wow. What can I say? You know, but I want to leave you with some questions. Who are you when nobody needs anything from you? That's the first question. What do you enjoy outside of productivity? What kind of relationships would you choose if you no longer needed validation? Oof. And ladies, what would your life look like in peace stopped feeling unfamiliar to you? Another question, what version of yourself are you finally ready to release? Sit with that for a moment. What version of yourself are you finally ready to release? Season 2 was called The Unlearning. And maybe now you understand why. Because healing is not just learning new things. Healing is releasing the identities, the beliefs, the patterns, and survival strategies that no longer serve who you are becoming. And I must say, for many women, that's terrifying. But I want to assure you, it's also liberating. Hear me, yes. So, season 1 was about the awakening. Season 2 was about the unlearning. But season 3 is on. Season 3 is about becoming. Not surviving, not shrinking, not proving, just becoming. And in season 3, starting next week, we're going to be talking about reinvention, emotional freedom, rebuilding identity, leadership, purpose, visibility. How about aging unapologetically? Boundaries. Oh, yeah, we're going to cover some things, y'all. softness. We're going to be covering confidence, aligned relationships, self-trust, power, what it means to finally choose yourself fully. See, because once a woman stops surviving herself, she finally has room to become herself. So I want to leave you with this. Maybe you are not falling apart. Maybe you're shedding identities that you no longer need. And maybe the hardest unlearning was never other people. Maybe the hardest unlearning was realizing that survival is no longer who you have to be. Listen, I'm Gloria Bailey-Ray, the authentic coach. And this, this, uh, and I'm just so grateful that you have been with me in these two series. And I can't wait to see you again next season 3, title of the cover. Peace and blessings. And you, this is Unpack This. And I'm here to stay tuned. Peace and blessings to all of you. Be well and God bless.